Hey everyone, it's time to move into the longing and figure out how are we going to get through until season 4. And I've got a bit of an idea for you because I've got a special guest here with me today, Jordan, who is creating the most amazing soundscapes to go along with our audiobooks. So I'm going to have a bit of a chat with Jordan about what's going on. So welcome, Jordan. Can you tell us, how did you get into this?
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, the story of how I kind of got into the Wheel of Time is kind of a bit of a very fast moving roller coaster, I think, because I was editing a podcast, Watch Party Wheel of Time, actually.
One of
For
my
the first couple of
favourites.
episodes, I was editing the first couple of episodes, didn't know anything about Wheel of Time back then. And this was obviously when the show was first coming out. And I got a few episodes in, and really because of Ruark's excitement and knowledge of all this stuff, I was like, okay, I got to check this out. So I started. I think I finished the first season, and around there is when Ruark took over the editing. So I
Yep.
kind of stepped back, and so then I was like, oh, I'm gonna check out the book because I love watching a show and then checking out the book because I'm like, oh, this is like the extended version of all that awesome stuff I
Yeah.
just saw. Um, so then I finished all of the books between season 1 and 2.
Yes.
So in that window, I just powered through all of it
Devoured them.
because I was like, this is amazing. So that was kind of my very fast obsession start to the whole thing. So since then, yeah, I've been working on these soundscape projects that we'll talk about more later. But yeah, I've been a huge Tolkien fan for a long time. So book one is familiar in that way, I think.
Yes.
But in comparison to the Lord of the Rings, I was kind of like, wow, look at all of this content that I get to have. Lord of the Rings is long, but in comparison, not really.
Mm,
So
mm,
it
mm.
was just really great to, those are my favorite things about these book series is when it's long and takes its time. So I was like, this is perfect for the kind of thing that I enjoy. So I just couldn't believe that I hadn't got into it earlier, really. So I'm happy to just be on the constant reread now and look forward to the show. And I feel like it's just perfect timing to be into it all.
The rereads are great. And the reading that we did for Beltane a week ago was so much fun. And when
Yes.
I was listening to, I can't remember now who read the near the end of the book, and we had Argonor in the fight, and just listening to it, and I hear, and with a flick of his fingers, and I thought, that's exactly how the
Ah,
Forsaken are doing things in the show, and it gave that, hearing it said gave me that the visuals from the show of Ishi when he shielded Moraine, and it was just that little, you know,
just a
and
little.
I thought, see, every reread there is something, you can never reread without more gems just bubbling up to the surface. Yeah.
Totally, totally. And so many small things in that same chapter. Uh, One of the first, Agenor mentions that it was Matt and the dagger that led them to be able to
Yes.
track them there. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like there's never really expansion on that or anything like that, but you just kind of little nuggets that just kind of keep cropping their way up. And I feel like because it's such a long series, you've forgotten some stuff by the time you get through. So there's always, at least for me, there's a little bit of rediscovering it every time, which is really, really, really exciting. So
There
good
really
stuff.
is. I've been trying to reread the last three books a bit more over the last year or two because for us who have been reading for a long time, we have reread the earlier books so many more times. So I've been
Right.
trying to, soak that into me a bit more. And then it's
Try and balance it
amazing when you
out.
go back and reread the early books. The more you soak the later books in, especially the Sanderson books, that you see more and more gems in the early books, the more familiar you are with the later books, and
Yeah.
so many of the gems that we see in the show that actually relate to the second half of the series. Just,
Yeah.
it thrills me.
Yeah. I remember watching certain scenes from season one after I had finished everything and being like, wow, we have some really long game stuff like planned out in some of these things. It's crazy. So, and it's hard to like watch some of those scenes and not like see a direct path to events that are going to happen in those last three books, really. So that's really exciting.
I have a show only friend that I watch with. I'm so excited this Friday I get to go and watch the last 3 episodes of season 3 with her. She hasn't seen them
Ooh.
yet.
Oh wow,
And
nice.
it's really interesting, talking with her, a bit like listening to Watch Party,
Yeah,
because we see so much and sometimes it can feel like, oh, they're giving a lot away. And yet, when you sit and talk with someone who hasn't read the books, it's just gorgeous watching them trying to,
try and piece it
make
together.
sense of what they're
That was
seeing.
what I loved about Watch Party. Yeah, was that I started off in the same spot as them as I
Yes.
was editing. You know, I was in the same spot as them, and then it was fun listening again when I kind of was more in Ruark's spot of knowing a little bit more. But yeah, it's really interesting how different the experiences can be between the two, book and show. So yeah, yeah, yeah. But at the same time, I feel like there's a lot in there that book readers are discovering for the first time too, because it's,
Yes.
still surprising and changes and, the way that we're getting some of the things are different. So that's always exciting for me too. The books are there and they're always going to be there. So I'd rather have something that's, a little bit
New.
different in different ways. Surprising. Yeah.
So, with season 3, have you got something that was a real highlight for you?
Ooh, I have a few
Can you limit
highlights
it to
for
one?
sure. Yeah, that's the trickiest part. Um, Let me think for a second. I think that if I'm going to take away episode four as a whole, I think that episode four as a whole would be a highlight. I think,
For sure.
but on a smaller scale, I really can't get enough of Perrin and Egwene because those are my. I mean, it changes here and there, but
Sure, sure.
mostly those are my two favorite characters. So, especially like seeing Egwene see Perrin in the dream, those kind of little quiet moments are really special for me. I really like those. And really, I think that in terms of if I had to choose a new character, maybe that was a highlight. Seeing Fail is was awesome. I just loved their dynamic. It's such good casting for the two of them. So I really enjoyed that stuff. I could go on, but yeah, I think that the way that we're kind of stepping our way into some of those Egwene and Perrin powers, I guess you could say, is really interesting. And
Yeah.
I can kind of see why, some of Perrin's stuff hasn't been explored as much yet, because that would get really confusing, I think, with the other versions of that kind of same thing that are happening. So I think that we'll get there, but having it all at once would have been a lot. So I'm excited to see that stuff trickle in. And I feel like the show, especially this season, has now kind of I don't know if it was necessarily hand holding before, but any kind of like lore hand holding, I feel like, is out the window now. It's like you got to keep up with what's happening as an audience, And I think it's great. I think it's really good, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great thing about talking about it with someone who hasn't read the books, and seeing them trying to absorb so much that
Yeah,
for us is like, oh, we're just enjoying like the new bits of how they've done something, but they're
yeah,
trying to actually figure all of this world
yeah.
out.
Wait, how does this work? What is this? What's the red doorway?
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
oh, was that the same person? Like, like they're just
yeah.
trying to,
I
they
mean,
can't remember
episode one this
names.
season must have been, yeah, episode one must have been a whirlwind of trying to keep up with
Yeah.
all the stuff that was happening. But I mean, I try to imagine what it would be like for me to experience it that way, and I feel like it would just be exciting to get all this new stuff and try and figure out what it means. I think that's the excitement of the journey, is to be like, oh, I don't know what all this stuff is, but it seems cool. I can't wait to find out
Yeah.
more.
I've got another two friends in the UK, they're sisters, and they've both gone insanely into it. It was so much fun during season 3, and both their husbands are like devastated, and because they're just talking about it all the time, and they're just like, now you're just making up your own story because they're trying to work out, what'll come
Yeah.
next, and and,
Oh, I would love
it's
to talk to some show only people about what they think,
yeah, it
where
is
they think things
really
are
fun.
headed.
This
Yeah.
one of these friends in the UK, the one that I particularly know, she blew me out when she said to me, "They're not going to do a Doctor Who and on Rand, are they? And just do a body swap?" And I just went, "Oh, what would make you say that?" I thought, right? You have no idea how close you are. So, full
That's
spoilers,
crazy.
everybody.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
it just
Wow.
blew me out. And that's when, you've got to just like be so careful as to, go, oh, okay, tell me a bit more. What makes you think that without, you know, giving anything away? But my other friend that I watch with are going to love how she moves through this season, because by the end of season 2, she had come to the conclusion that Paddon Fane is actually the Dark One.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, because she'd say, like, who is this Dark One? Like, we haven't said, is the Dark One a person? Is it? And she, and then finally she's like, it's Paddon Fane. So even though she's
That's
seen
awesome.
episode 4, she hasn't had time to absorb enough to go, well, that wasn't Paddon Fane.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
I
it's
mean, with
fun.
a show that's got so much going on, I feel like there's so much possibility that it's like, I don't know, maybe as a show only person, it could pan out that way. Who knows? You know,
Well, Paddon
that's really
Fane,
interesting.
yeah, because, he's pretty. And I just think you wait till you see Paddon Fane as we keep going. And
Yeah,
because she
exactly.
hasn't seen him at the Two Rivers yet. So,
Right, right. Yeah.
yeah.
Exciting.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing what things, people pick out of it. So what are you looking forward to for season 4?
For season 4, I think that I feel like the show is only going to get bigger now. And I
For
feel like
sure.
that's really exciting in terms of like what's happening, but also in terms of just the sets and the people and the size of the events and the size of the shows of power that we're seeing and things like that. Um, I think that, like I said earlier, I'd love to see Perrin and the wolf dream more. I want to see that
Yes.
actually start to happen. I
Yes.
want to see what that looks like. I want to see what it feels like. Um, I also really want to see someone design Calendar and see what it actually, like, what that design looks like when it's realized, you know. And I think that I see where we're headed with Egwene's plot. I think we've set things up to kind of fast track a lot of what's going on there.
For sure.
So I'm excited for. I'm not sure if we'll get there right away, but I'm excited for Egwene to kind of separate and do her own thing more. But I'm also, you know, the way that this season ended, that kind of final look that Rand has, you know, I'm a little bit scared for for what's gonna come next, you know, and it would be really
Yeah.
exciting to see a different side of
Yeah.
that we get in the books. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Egwene
we're
and Elia.
finally, yeah, I feel like that and you know, Nynaeve is now past a certain point
Yes.
for her story, so I feel like we're opening up a lot. Same with
Yeah.
Matt. I feel like Matt needs a lot of time now to
Yes.
become. It's feeling very like start of book 3 for Matt now. It's like
Yes. Yes.
we've we've done the beginning stuff, and now here's Matt. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind
Yeah.
of how I
Matt
feel
is
about it.
about
So
to just come waltzing on in the room.
exactly, yeah, yeah. I feel like we've done a lot of really great work with Rand, where it's like established what's going on, what he has to deal with, all this stuff, and now I want that same kind of thing for the other
Yeah.
3 or 4. I think Perrin is also solid now, but Egwene and Nynaeve, Matt and Elaine have their time now to kind of
Yeah.
come forth, and I'm
Yeah.
excited, excited. So much more to come.
Oh, I know. They just it's just amazing to think that we're seeing it on the screen. It is, you know,
Yeah,
it is
and
happening.
I mean
So
every season the channeling takes like a massive step up in terms of visuals. So I can't wait to see how it steps up again moving forward. You know,
yeah,
a lot of really cool stuff.
yeah, because there's a bit of cool channeling events coming.
I know, yeah, and that also makes me you know, almost happy that we haven't seen some of like Perrin's stuff, because I feel like
Yeah.
now they'll be able to pull it off even better. So that's cool. I don't know how we're gonna visualize Matt's luck and the dice and stuff,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
hopefully we get some very creative sound design people working on some of that stuff, because I feel like there was some scenes where we heard his memories, you know, in
Correct.
the
Yes.
audio,
Yeah.
and that was the first time, you know, especially for me, that we'll talk about later, I'll take some inspiration from, because I was like, wow, what a good idea that is, to so easily kind of demonstrate what's happening, you know, without the need for any visual. Because I can imagine a very like easy flashback looking dream thing where we see it, but it's so much more interesting to just have just the audio portrayed there. So very
Because
cool, very excited.
their facial acting is just so superb that a bit of
Yeah,
audio and some facial acting and we get it, you know?
yeah, totally. I mean,
We've been shown.
the perfect example of that is when Rand and Egwene are having their argument, and Egwene says, like, "Do you know what she's been doing?" And Yosha is just like an incredible actor. The way that I feel like the audience has no doubt that he did not know that this was going
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and there's this changeover that happens, and then you're starting to be like, oh, uh oh, I'm a little bit scared of what this could, switch into just like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's an amazing actor. I mean, they all are,
Yeah.
but
I know.
especially him this season. Yeah,
Yeah. Rand just is Yosha.
totally, totally,
Yosha
totally.
just
Yeah,
is Rand. It's just
yeah,
inseparable.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Well, talking about how they use sounds in there, and there are so many examples of, I mean, that could be like a whole discussion, the way they used sound so
Yeah,
cleverly in the show, like because I'm not a sound engineer, I know that I didn't even hear a lot of it. It was
right.
brought up to me, by other people, but it's subliminal. It still has that impact on you, whether you go, oh look, I heard that, or oh, that sound was this. It still has this really deep impact, and so tell us about what you've been doing with sounds to just help bring the story even more to life.
Yeah, definitely. My project, the Soundscape of Time, is. I'll do a little brief kind of explanation. We'll listen to a little bit of it later, but a little bit of a brief explanation is that I've taken the audiobooks, the original audiobook to start with, and I've designed sound effects, ambience, nature sounds, and an original score for every moment of every chapter. So, I'm adding in like the sounds of the horses, the sounds of the reins, the sounds of footsteps, every little detail that I can, and then up to the big details of the sounds of the channeling, the sounds of them traveling, the sounds of the environments that they're in, and I'm designing all different. I think I have well over 80 different ambiences that I've designed so far.
Fabulous.
Probably half of those are ins, but they're still all different. So I sit down with a chapter and I outline, where we are, what it would sound like, how far away certain things are, what the POV character would hear, because that's maybe sometimes different than what other characters in the scene might hear. And then I put it all in there. I design it. I move it around in 3D Dolby Atmos in your headphones. And it's all timed perfectly with the narration. So you can kind of get this full movie experience. And then I write music to it. I write themes for all the characters. And I treat it as if it's a, 50 or so. I think how long is the first book? I'd have to look up the
I
numbers
think
there, but
about 31 or 32 hours for Kate and Michael, and about 33 for Rosamond.
right, yeah. So imagine just a 30 some hour long movie of sound design and music and all that for the whole story. So that's kind of the goal of the project. And I've just a couple weeks ago now finished book 2. Book 1 is done. Book 1 is actually done for both the original audiobook and for Rosamond's, so people can check out both versions there. And then, yeah, The Great Hunt is done. I was just working on Dragon Reborn today, and book 3 and 4 are actually all outlined already. So I'm just going to be getting into sound design and ambience and stuff like that now. A lot of the music is like the themes are written already for a lot of those characters, so that's really good. They'll just be developing more as we go. And speaking of Matt, I finally get to write some Matt music because
Yes.
he's really, there's hints of Matt's theme in book 1 and 2, but it's finally time to see that realized. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, that's the idea of the project. And when you have access to it, basically, I have a podcast feed that people can put on, and you can listen to the soundscape in its entirety. Just with your headphones on and feel like you're there. And that would be a version without the narration. which is a really cool experience because you can put the headphones in and hear Rand and Tam, walking into Emmons Field and hear Bella, and you'll know where you're at in the story, for these moments. And I always think of it as a really kind of fun Easter egg hunt where you can hear all these moments and, hear people open the door and walk out of the wine spring inn and all this stuff, and hear Pod and Fane roll up into town and all this kind of stuff. So if you know the books as well as I think most people watching this will, then you'll be able to pick out all those events happening. But at the same time, I have a syncing app that will take the files for the soundscape and your audiobook files and put them together so that you can just have the full immersive experience all together, which is another really exciting way to experience it. And I also have people that, just sit down with their book and read and have the soundscape on in their headphones as they're reading, which is a really fun way to go about it as well.
Oh,
So
hey,
lots
that's
of
a
different
good
ways.
idea.
Yeah. The cool thing about reading with the soundscape is that for the most part, for all the tests that I've done, you're almost always going to read, you'll never read faster than them.
Okay.
Or sorry, you'll never read slower than them. I always get it reversed in my head. You'll never read slower than them because they are performing it, right? They're kind of acting it out. So it's surprisingly difficult to read at that pace. So at the most, you'll get a little bit ahead, which means that if you do hear the door of the wine spring, like if you read that the door of the
Yeah.
wine spring opens, but you
Yeah.
don't hear it yet, you just
Yeah.
got to hang out, listen for a little bit. It'll open, and then you can read. You can continue reading on. So it's kind of a fun experience to do that. But yeah, so that's the project, and I did a Kickstarter for the first 4 books. So those are in the works. It's all going well. Like I said, I've got the first 2 done. And then right now, my Kickstarter for the next 4 books is currently running. So that's kind of where everything is at.
And I backed the first Kickstarter, and I cannot express just how amazing it is to listen to. When
you.
Jordan says it's immersive, that is the only word that I can use, because you have either your headphones or both your earpods in. Mine are noise cancelling, so you are completely immersed into it. And because the sounds are actually dimensional, and again, you have to do it. You have to listen to it to understand that when they're running down the stairs of the Wine Spring Inn, you can actually hear them behind you. They're not just coming into an ear. You feel like you are actually there, and the sounds are happening all around you. And I listened to the Eye of the World while I was doing work out in the garden, and the amount of times that I jumped and turned around.
You know what's funny
hilarious.
about that? What's so funny about that is that I still do that, and I put the sounds in there. So when there's a door knock or something like that, there's a lot in the start of book 2 in Faldara, people knocking on doors and stuff like that, and I'm always like, "Ugh." Just so many times. It's so funny. But that's what's exciting about it for me, is that it's small things like that up to the really big things that we'll hear in a couple minutes in the example. And getting to write new music for scenes we didn't see in the show, for characters we might not even see in the show. And just being able to take my own approach to it. For book 2, I got to write, my own version of the Shan Chan music, which was really, really exciting and interesting to explore. And, all these characters and groups of people that have their own kind of flavor to them. Writing music for Kyrian was really fun. I tried to give it a very kind of specific feel. People will hear what I mean when they get there, but it's a very hopefully accurate to the inspirations of Kyrian feel, and it feels so different from Emmons Field and so different from some of the other places that we end up
Yep.
in, which is just so much fun. And I'm really, as we know, I'm only at the start of that journey. There's so many other places to visit and
Yes.
to come up with sound palettes for and music and things like that. So I was thinking about, doing the ambience for Tyr and how how that's going to sound, because it's going to sound like so different from every other city that we end up in, and how the steadings have like this low kind of resonance on them to
Yeah.
kind of signal that you're in a steading. Everything else stays the same, we're in the forest, but there's this kind of resonance that starts to happen. Designing how Teleron Riyadh will sound, it was very interesting to kind of take the ambiances of the places that we're at, but to kind of filter them through this kind of effect that makes it sound like a dreamy version of that. Was really, really interesting. So, so many endless little nuggets like that to explore and think about. And that's just what I love thinking about and love working on these projects for. So, lots of fun.
And we reread The Wheel of Time all the time. I know that a lot of book readers are book listeners. Kate and Michael, are just like so beloved within the fandom, so that it makes it obvious that a lot of us are listening to the audiobooks. So adding a whole new layer to bring a new breath into the books is really exciting. So you're going to play us a bit of a sample.
Yes, yes, yes. I
If
have a
you
little bit of a
don't have
sample.
have headphones on or two ear pods in, I totally recommend right now that you just do that while Jordan gets ready to play it, because it will make a huge amount of difference. If you've got to run and get them, pause, come back, and then hit play again.
Definitely. Yeah, the 3D simulation technology that's being used, it really only works over headphones. You'd have to be in the perfect center of your speakers for that to work out. So yeah, definitely put those headphones on if you can, and we will listen to this little sample. All right, let's do it.
She flung her fist toward him, fingers opening as if she were throwing something. She was only half surprised to see a ball of fire leave her hand. It exploded against Agenor.
There we go.
Oh, I love the way the sound changed as she went to step through the arches. That was just fabulous.
Yeah. That was a fun scene to put together, and then it just gets more and more emotional as we go through that whole scene.
Right? We've still got a lot to go in that scene.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I haven't listened to The Great Hunt yet with the Soundscape. That is next on my listening to books list, and I just can't wait. Yeah.
There's some really, really fun stuff that, especially, we go to the Portal world, we go to Fallen, we got so many things. I had such a fun time putting the fight with Turak together.
Oh, yes.
And trying to find a good sound for the horn.
I was
Trying to write music for the heroes of the horn, all this kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, so much to do.
just fabulous.
But always fun.
And these are exceptional value, right? The price that you pay to add a soundscape to each of your audiobooks is exceptional value. Just like having the audiobook and you can listen to it over and over, you then have that, to listen to forever. So, and the thing is, you can at any time listen to the book without the soundscape, listen to it with the soundscape, or I can't wait to try what Jordan said, listen to the soundscape without the book. I had not actually done that, and that sounds like a lot of fun to just, be listening and work out where you are in the story. So that, that gives a triple impact on what you can do with the books.
Yeah, and one of the exciting things about kind of how I'm doing this is that the files are able to be kind of living files a little bit. So, if new technology comes out and I can improve stuff and whatnot, then people will just get those new versions. It's not going to be like some upgrade price or something like that. It'll just be updated as we go. And same thing with the Rosamund versions.
Yep.
Those are just included whenever it just takes time for me to retime everything to her performance so that I can re-release it. But it's not like some extra thing or anything like that. Because she does read a little bit slower than Michael and Kate. So things have to expand a little bit. But it's so interesting too, because the different narrators, and I experienced this with The Lord of the Rings as well, because I've done this for The Lord of the Rings. With the different narrators, it makes the soundscape feel different when it's accompanied by a different narrator. So, Rosamund's has a pretty different feel in some of those scenes than Michael and Kate. So there's many, many different ways to experience it,
Yeah. And it becomes a bit like, I love both versions. I love Kate and Michael, and I also love Rosamund. And so if you like both versions of the audiobook, then again, adding the soundscape on gives all that extra of being able to just enjoy the story over again. It was like when we did the Beltane reading. I want to see us as fans read the whole of a book because, it was really interesting to have those slightly different takes on each chapter of the book depending on who was reading it. So
totally
it does every different way we can ingest the Wheel of Time books just adds to it, and you hear something more or you think about something more just because there's a little bit of a difference, and so it just catches you in. Now I'm going to have a link in the description below to Jordan's Kickstarter. But also, if you go to Kickstarter and just type into the search bar Soundscapes of Time, you cannot miss it. It pops up really quick. I've tried doing that, but there will be a clickable link in the description below as well. And when does it finish? Like, the time is of the essence, people. You've got to actually get in before the Kickstarter finishes. So what's the deadline?
Yeah, so there are 19 days to go, but that probably doesn't help people come and watch this later. So on the 24th is when it ends at 7 o'clock. So 24th
of May, 2025 is your deadline. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
If you did jump into the Kickstarter last time, then still go back, because this gives you option for the next 4 books. So that was sort of really great for me, because I'd done 4 books last time and I was able to now grab 4 books again this time. And there's other add-ons that you can go for. There's lots of great little perks. Like, I chose the perk to be able to help do some sounds that go into the recording, and that was really fun to actually go out in my local area and record some things. And even though I can't recognize any of them in there, I know that part of my local life is part of Eamon's Field. That's, you know, there's lots of ways that you can even get extra involved.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many opportunities for that kind of thing throughout the series too. And that's really a lot of fun. I have, specific musicians or people that have certain voices and things like that I'm like, okay, this one scene in book 4, when I get there, I'll have to call on this person to get this part in here, So I'm sure there's tons of that in the later books too. So lots of ways to get involved. I also have people that are kind of part of the research team that'll help me, with trying to figure out what these different ambiences should feel like and things like that. So lots of fun ways to get involved and help me make this happen.
Collaboration is just one of the most fun things, I think, about this fandom. I could not believe when I came into the fandom how much people wanted to get in and be involved with what each other are doing. And so, having people collaborate with you on doing it in tiny ways, in bigger ways, is fantastic.
Definitely.
Anything else that you want to tell us about your project?
I think that we covered really most of it. I will say, actually, though, that there's 2 full chapter samples on the Kickstarter page. So if you go over there, you can hear the entire prologue for book 2, narrated by Michael, and you can also listen to a chapter narrated by Rosamund. So if you want to hear what the full experience sounds like for a full chapter, you can go check that out. And then, consider backing, so that I really, hopefully you can kind of understand the amount of detail that I'm trying to put into this. And I really can't do that without the Kickstarters being able to give me the time. So I appreciate all of you.
Because this is a highly professional product. So you are buying something that you're going to treasure forever. And if we don't get this Kickstarter to go through, what are we going to do without having more Soundscapes of Time? The longing will just be unbearable. So, go check out the link, support Jordan's project, because you will never regret it. Thanks so much for coming and talking to us about it, Jordan. I could talk to you for hours.
Definitely. Well, hopefully we'll be back and we can talk more about future seasons and future soundscapes.
That'd be great. That would be great. Maybe we can even get a non-book reader, a show-only person.
That would be really cool.
And, just have a bit of a chat about the show. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. And check the link in the description below, because we can never have too much Wheel of Time.